Hi guys, Sugar here with a new video, and this video will be a discussion video. So it means that you can put it in the background, watch some TV, play some games, do some cooking, do some cleanup, whatever. You can actually just listen to me if you want to, of course, and relax, and you don't need to watch anything. But if you want to watch, you will see me and my character, but that's it. So I want to discuss about, like the title says, people fearing of having Arms Warrior being S tier with 10.0.5 because they do change the talents quite a bit. Overpower is actually a scary ability for a builder, but also just in general you have ignore pain back, which means that we are going to be a lot more tanky. It will be at 11 or 12 second CD, but it will more or less like reduce the damage by 50% for a total of 50k to 70k, depending if you're in a burst rotation like with avatar, whatever, because it scales with attack power. It is actually very nice, so you will survive the damage that you wouldn't maybe survive in general right now, for example. But also the talent star has changes, so it means that if you want to do a bleed build, you don't have to sacrifice a lot of things. You can actually take pretty much everything you actually want. And if you want to do a big damage build like Mortal Strike or Overpower or whatever, you can actually have all the talents that you actually want, and even Fatality, for example, which is a good talent, but the way on how you can achieve to get to Fatality isn't really the most optimal way right now. So once we have everything, the talents are changed, Ignore Pain has changed, it will probably make Arms Warrior S tier with all the nerfs coming in for different specs. So people are scared of that. And now I don't actually know why people are scared of Arms Warrior being S tier or even A tier, because a meta where Arms Warrior is very strong opens up so many comps. And I already discussed about it in the comments with people debating about me not liking or Arms Warrior being meta. While for me, I think the metas, and I know I am biased because I do Arms Warrior guides and Arms Warrior videos and Arms Warrior gameplay, and I do play Arms Warrior most of the time with my warlock and with now my DK and my hunter, for example, with a bit of shaman. I'm a bit of bias, right? Because I do want to have Arms Warrior being strong. But whenever I'm thinking about a meta of Arms Warrior being strong, in twos it's a bit different because again twos isn't like nothing you can really balance because it's very hard. But in threes, if I'm thinking about Arms Warrior being strong, makes actually sense to have multiple good comps. So when Arms Warrior is very strong, Enhancement Shaman becomes a bit better because you can actually play Enhancement Shaman with an Arms Warrior, which is turbo, and it will be valid because your Arms Warrior will be able to peel you because it becomes more tanky, more stronger, more everything. Whenever Arms Warrior is very weak, Turbo is also very weak. And we are going to talk about Retribution Paladin Arms Warrior. If Arms Warrior is very weak, Retribution Paladin has to be OP to make that actual comp work. And even then, wizards are going to just destroy you most of the time. If you're playing warrior with a mage, that is also possible because warrior being strong makes it a lot easier to peel the mage, makes it also possible to play the mage optimally in that comp. You can also play warrior shadow priest, which is right now very strong, but it is one of the best counters versus a few specs that are actually very obnoxious to play against, like for example demon hunter DH, demon hunter DK, I mean hero cleave. That's a very good comp to play in. RMP being very strong makes it that you have the possibility to play a warrior, which gives you a lot of good peels, and a class that actually can maybe counter the RMPs. Like for example, hunters. KFC is a great comp to actually play into RMP because you can roar sacrifice, you have turtle, you have die by the sword for the rogue, you have disarm for the rogue, you have a lot of ways to actually survive a lot of goes with that comp. If you want to play like Kitty Cleave, that's very optional and very possible. Again, the Arms Warrior being weak makes it very hard for the Feral to do the damage that he normally can do because most of the time as an Arms Warrior, you cannot peel enough the Feral Druid to enable him. And I can go on and on, but I can give you all the comps that a warrior can play in. And that's a good thing about a arms warrior being S tier, makes everything that is tied to a warrior close to be A or S tier. So if I'm thinking about an enhancement shaman or retribution paladin, even a DH, a DK which is TSG, a hunter like a BM hunter or a survival hunter, a feral druid, a mage, even a balanced druid, you can actually play everything with the warrior and enable that said class with your warrior. And that's what's actually very awesome. A good thing is Holy Paladins actually has a purpose versus melees, and which melee is actually the best for a Holy Paladin to play against? It is an Arms Warrior. So again, a healer that is considered not very good will optionally be better versus Arms Warrior than, let's say, a DK or a DH or anything that has a lot of magic damage, because your Bob will do nothing. Again, will elevate other specs. They will also elevate warrior, anti-warrior specs. Like, let's say I'm going to say mage warlock, for example, warlock mage. That comp is very strong versus an arms warrior. Or elemental shaman with a warlock, which is, for example, LSD. Again, very strong versus a warrior. So you have a lot more comps to play against, a lot of comps to play with. And I think just in general, it will be a better meta than what we have right now, with, let's say, DKs being like top dog. And whenever DKs are top dog, a lot of specs are actually pushed down the tier list because it is just how they are functioning. And the same for other specs. Like, let's say, whenever the DHs were like very strong, it becomes very hard to play a caster, to be honest. And we can go on and on and on about the actual meta that we are playing right now. And I'm going to say warriors being strong with this patch is also a reality that disc priests are going to be very strong with this pack, with this patch, which means that jungle cleaves are going to be very strong, or RMPs are going to be very strong, or any real comp that you can play with a disc priest are going to be much more stronger, which again will diversify the comps and the specs that you're going to play against. Am I saying that you are not going to see a lot of warriors? Not really. I think warrior is such a popular class, and arms warrior is actually a fan favorite spec, always has been. Even whenever it was bad, people played it because it is one of those specs that people like to play. So you will see a lot of DHs, a lot of DKs actually turning into arms warriors, but that is just how the meta is. And unfortunately, or fortunately for a lot of people, arms warrior will probably get a nerf, will probably get a buff if needed, but there will always be changes around arms warrior, because if you look the actual class, about the PvP talents, about the design of an arms warrior, that class is actually the ultimate design for a PvP spec. They have everything. They have great PvP talents to switch on. Again, if you want to watch your screen, I'm going to show you a few PvP talents that are actually very flexible and very nice to play with. So for example, we have, again, duel, very strong versus cleave specs. Like, for example, DHDK, if you're dueling the DK, he will do a lot less splash damage. The same for the DH, for example. Or Storm of Destruction, again, it will be very nice versus RMPs, for example. Instead of Sharpened Blade, you can then have a lot more Blade Storms, a lot more activity, a lot less roots, a lot less everything, to be honest. You have also Warbanner, which is super good versus RMPs, versus jungles, versus a lot of specs that are actually relying on CC. You have Disarm, again, trying to disarm a melee that is going to burst is a win condition for you. Demolition, actually a very good PvP talent for, let's say, if you want to fight versus a warlock that has a Dark Pact, you can just remove that completely with Demolition, with also the Wrecking Throw. And you can also do that with the Monk Bubble, for example. So you have a lot of ways to actually change your PvP talents in concordance versus the enemies that you're facing. But also, it is a class that feels not bad to play whenever you are not bursting. If you don't have Avatar, or if you don't have Colossus Smash, you will have still some kind of damage because of the stacking of Overpower, for example, or Sharpened Blade being a 25-second CD. And you have Anger Management, again, a talent that you can have also in 10.0.5, which will reduce the CDs on Colossus Smash and Blade Storm. all of this will actually make your class feel better because you will feel that you are actually doing something all the time. While, for example, some classes, like a Retribution Paladin, outside of wings, is completely a noodle, for example. And a Frost Decay, that is, I'm liking it, I do play Frost Decay, but outside of Pillar of Frost, you're killing no one, basically. If you're playing like a marksmanship hunter outside of double tap, you are basically nothing. You have true shot a bit, but it is still not enough to kill someone in one go. While, for example, double tap will enable that. And that is actually what I'm actually saying a lot on my streams, a lot on my videos. Arms Warrior is probably the best designed class overall. I think if all the classes go into the direction, not the sensation, but the direction of an arms warrior, which means that you have ways to actually reduce CDs on your burst rotation, for example, trying to actually play the game and still feel useful, feel that you have kill pressure, feel that you have actually like something to press that is actually meaningful. I think a lot of classes are going to benefit from it. Like, for example, Destruction Warlock, a class and spec that I really love, but really it is annoying to see Infernals being a 3-minute CD and that's it. It's very annoying to have press it only one time in arenas and that's it. While, for example, a fire elemental of an elemental shaman, again, you can reduce that CD because of, like, again, the talents that you can pick to reduce it, and basically you can play with a fire elemental probably 80% of the time in the arenas, and that's feeling alright, that's feeling good. So it means that whenever you press it, you know you're going to get it back sooner than later. The same for other specs that has the same feelings. The thing that I would not like is reduction on defensive CDs. That would not have to happen. Like, let's say rogues, outlaw rogues in Shadowlands, that was a bit nasty to play versus, with evasions being every 30 seconds basically, or blur being such a low CD, for example, or just defensives like Dark Pact being a very low CD. So what I would like to see is people actually see Arms Warrior on how it can be for your own class. If your Warlock has that, if your Shaman has that, if a Retribution has the same gameplay, I would say not gameplay, but feeling or design as a Arms Warrior, I think the game would be 10,000 times better. Again, I don't want to homogenize everything. That's not the goal. Again, a retribution paladin should always be a retribution paladin. It should not be an arms warrior in disguise. But the feeling of whenever you don't have CDs to press, that you actually have damage and have surprising things, is actually very nice. Or let's say, for example, you remove the reckoning a PvP talent. Basically, whenever you're getting crit or your allies getting crit, you can have wings like for 6 seconds or whatever. You can remove that. You have a 2-minute CD wings. You reduce the power of wings a bit because there is too many things that actually boost your damage. And what you can do is actually put a lower CD on wings every time you're using holy power, for example. That would mean that every time you're going to combat, in combat, you're actually like fighting the people, you will lower your CDs to get it faster. I think that kind of gameplay is actually very useful, very good for the game. While, for example, reducing the CDs on defensive capacities is not really good because, again, you don't want to have things not dying. So that's pretty much my vision of how I see the meta, or how I want the meta to be. Again, I am a nobody. I'm not going to say that Blizzard is going to listen to me or whatever, but what I want is that my viewers can understand what a good meta could be. Well, for example, some metas, like for example the meta that we have right now, which is still nerfed in a nerf state, so it's still good, but I think DKs and Elemental Shaman being S tiers with Feral Druids, for example, is a kind of a dumb design. If Feral Druids are S tier, it just means that it is too strong because it is a hard class to play, and still it is still S tier because of the AoE pressure that it can have. And the same for Elemental Shamans being able to one-shot someone, or DKs being literally annoying versus casters because of Spell Warden. So you have a lot of ways to actually be annoying into the meta, and what I want is a meta that is more clear for also the noob players that are actually new to the game. They want to have a clearer way to actually play the game, but also for the veterans, people that want to play a better meta where all the comps are kind of valid or viable. Right now, it is not the case. If you play Turbo, you're kind of gimping yourself as a warrior, or the same for an enhancement shaman. They don't have really a great comp to play in. And what I want is Arms Warrior to be A tier or S tier in trees, but also in Soul Shuffle, where you could actually build comps around a spec or around to play against that spec. But anyways, I hope you can understand what I mean with all the things that I said right now. I know it's a bit biased. Again, I said that I am an Arms Warrior. Of course, I am biased. Of course, I just want to have my spec being stronger. But I think if you're looking at it in a vacuum, having Arms Warrior being very strong makes that the meta is going to play around a lot of comps. If mages are very strong, it will just make Rogue Mage very strong, for example. Or if Warlocks are very strong, it will make that Wizard Cleaves are going to be the top dog. Anything. And I am a Destruction Warlock, I am a BM Hunter, I am an Arms Warrior, I am a Frost DK, I am so many specs, and I can understand that it's very annoying to play against certain specs, but I think you have to watch the bigger picture and see for yourself which metas are going to be much more enjoyable to heal, but also to play against and with. But that's actually what I wanted to say in this video. Please let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel if you want PvP discussions, PvP guides, solo shuffle gameplay, which is for now a bit difficult because warlocks are straight up busted because someone is cheating, like an affliction warlock is cheating with dev bots, but that's another discussion for another day, and hopefully we don't have that discussion because it gets hotfixed. But again, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet, and we will catch each other very soon in a next video. Have a great day. Bye.